Hey there, Vineyard family. Hey, I wanted to take a few moments today to circle back to our topic from this last Sunday as we were working our way through Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, and specifically we're in the Beatitudes where Jesus is talking about the radical availability of God's kingdom breaking into our human experience and the blessedness of that and the invitation for us to be a part of that. And so specifically, we used that as the lenses for us to look at the current conversation and movement regarding racism and racial justice in our nation and in our world. And so a couple of things just to follow up on that. First of all, if you weren't here Sunday, either on campus or joining online, I want to ask you to watch that message. We're going to include a link to the message that doesn't include the whole morning. It's just specifically the message portion of our morning. But that's a pretty important conversation, and for us as a church to be looking at that through the lenses of our faith, not through the lenses of our politics or our personal experience, but asking how does our faith shape the way we move into that. So I want to ask you to do that, and then along with that, we're going to provide two resources that we shared on Sunday as well. And for me, I think they're two of the most helpful resources that I've encountered recently that are just succinct tools for helping us get our minds and hearts around the issue. So one is an article from Christianity Today from the president and CEO of Christianity Today that talks about the history of racism in our nation and the church's complicity in it, but also the reason why we have a part in healing, that we have a big part in bringing healing to that. And so there's that article, and then there's also a video that we'll attach, a second video that's from Phil Vischer. He's actually the creator of VeggieTales, but he brings his editing and writing skills to put together like a 15-minute video that really delves into the complexity of racism, not only as an individual choice and a matter of the heart in terms of how we individually treat one another, but as a matter of the system in which we live and that shapes our whole nation. And he delves into that so effectively. So I want to invite you to and ask you to watch those things and read that document if you haven't. It's worth your time to do this right now. This is important. And then lastly, on Sunday, we talked about an upcoming event that we're going to be hosting, and I wanted to give you the details on that. So on Wednesday, July 8th, from 6:30 to 8:30. So this is an evening meeting, Wednesday, July 8th. But it's a chance for us to hear from brothers and sisters in Christ who maybe have a different experience than what we've had, and to help us to understand and maybe move with greater empathy towards those who've experienced the world differently than maybe the majority of us have. And so, on Sunday I shared statistically that back in the fall of last year, this is prior to Ahmaud Arbery, prior to Breonna Taylor, before George Floyd, any of that, most recent outbreaks, that there was a survey done in which white practicing Christians were about 38% likely to say that there's a problem still in our country today with racism, 38%. When you ask black practicing Christians the same question, it was 78%, so nearly 80%. And so how do you identify the difference between those two numbers? And so maybe you have a hard time with knowing what media source to trust right now. And what I'd ask you to do is to take the time to listen to some of our brothers and sisters in Christ who can maybe shed a light on what it's like to live in our world with a different color skin than maybe what you have. So that's coming up, and want to ask you to do that. We're going to be live streaming that event as well as doing it on campus. So especially with Idaho going back to stage 3, we wanted to make sure that that's accessible to everyone, but would ask you to put that on your calendar. So whether you're joining us on campus or live streaming that night, I think that's a pretty important event for us to take time to enter into and engage. So there you go. Hope you can make that, and together let's keep making the invisible God visible.